an offer for you and your father to walk away from this company. I looked at him and I said, there is no price tag around my neck. Money doesn't motivate me. Legacy does, responsibility does.
That's such a fantastic turnaround story from not being able to find early believers to then reaching to thousands of crores in terms of market cap. Today, we get to get a glimpse inside how a rare leader and operator truly thinks. I have with me Mr. Nikhil Nanda on the show. He's the chairman and managing director of Escorts Kubota Limited. He comes from very heavyweight legacies. On one side, he's the grandson of Mr. Raj Kapoor, who is widely acclaimed for his Bollywood success and is known globally. And on the other side, he's the grandson of Mr. H.P. Nanda. And this company is in the 8th decade of its operations.
So this American looks at me and says, Nikhil, no disrespect. What is India really known for? I felt this conversation was not an insult, but it was a calling. That we have to show the inherent strength of what India stands for and what our company can deliver basis the strength of this country's talent.
In today's conversation, we talk about exiting legacy businesses, how he thought about when he came into the business in his early 20s, what were those times like, and he gives us a rare glimpse into what legacy businesses truly think about when it comes to leadership and operating excellence.
And an evening with Mr. Raj Kapoor. He says, Nikhil, when you retire, an impact you have created around you, that is the wealth and reputation that you would have created for yourself for what I would like you to earn.
Nikhil, welcome to the India Opportunity Show. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Shrishti.
You know, this is such a rare occasion because we haven't seen you do too many interviews. So it is truly a privilege for you taking out the time for this.
I mean, I'm usually a very shy person. And as I was telling you before the interview, I am a kind of a man who likes to walk behind the team. I don't necessarily look for limelight. And I believe that, your work and your values need to speak for itself. But now, given my position and given the fact that where we are as Escorts Kubota, I feel it's important sometime for people to get to know me as a man, as a CEO. And therefore, I agreed for this interview. And thank you for coming. And I look forward to our conversation today.
No, thank you for having me on your beautiful campus. It looks amazing. And it truly shows the industrial strength that India is beginning to have. But in your family, it's been around for 8 decades, right? Let's start with the origin story because a lot of people might not appreciate what a turnaround story Escorts really is. When you started on, there was financial stress, multiple businesses, and it was a very different scenario when you started. And as a third generation, I know the chip on your shoulder and what it takes to truly have a turnaround story. So let's talk about the early days.
Early days when I came to the work?
Yes.
So when I came back from college, my grandfather, Mr. H.P. Nanda, who started Escorts, his belief was that I want to create a platform that will partner India. And he actually was a botany specialist and he loved agriculture. And that's why we got into the business of tractors. So I did my undergraduation at UPenn at Wharton. I came back and within about a year or two, Mr. H.P. Nanda, my grandfather who started the company, he passed away. And then unfortunately, at that moment in time, there was also a situation where there was a dispute within the family. And Escorts then was in multiple businesses. We were in motorcycles and automotive components and hospitals and many other crane businesses with other joint venture partners. And given the fact that India was liberalizing, foreign capital was coming into India, it was extremely important that one had to know your knitting and do your work in a manner that you could add value in terms of the strategic sense. So the company, when we got into the telecom business, we had a very large financial exposure, and that really sucked out a lot of capital from our company. So the debt got into a level of levels that we could not service. Money was coming in from our core business, which was tractors. I remember between 2002 and 2004 that our EBITDA was negative and our interest cost was to the extent of 154 crores.
Wow.
So we had long-term debt, we had short-term debt. So it was like you were an ICU. And it was a very difficult situation for me personally because I was a young boy. I was only 22. I came back to India wanting to partner the vision that my grandfather had laid. And as a third generation, since you are also a third generation, we always have our aspiration of continuing the platform, the legacy to serve. So I felt that at that moment, maybe that dream was getting completely shattered because the situation in the company was not good. But then my father and I and few executives, we felt this is a responsibility, and we started the restructuring process. And I'm really happy that we were able to execute the restructuring plan in the manner that we thought about. So we started to exit from businesses where we felt we could not add value. The partner had technology and was probably in a better position to build, scale the business. And we sort of diluted our exposure from businesses which were sucking out capital. So once we brought in the capital, the financial restructuring happened successfully, and then we became, were able to put in money into the core business, and the business started to climb up. We became zero debt company, and then we started to have surplus cash, and rest is history. So the 7-8 years, I think, were really trying periods.
From 150 crores of interest payments to then getting to EBITDA profitability and also leaving all these cash sucking businesses in one way, I think, the question to ask here is a lot of Indian business families traditionally become conglomerates because, as a matter of just business expansion and don't really go into the depth, right? Like that was also a decision that you made, which was a brilliant capital allocation decision, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But, getting out of businesses while they are running, while they have employees, they have history, started as a legacy business, it's not easy to do. And this
Yeah.
is something that I've seen personally in my family business as well.
Yeah.
So how does one even start that process? You said 7-8 years. I'm sure if you go back in time, that must have been such a tough time for you. India is one of the fastest growing economies around the world. And if you want to be a part of this growth story, you need to be backing Indian businesses and companies. Whether you already invest in markets or are just starting out your journey, Grow is the place to be. Grow gives you a clean, intuitive, and simple UI to be able to experience investing better than any other platform. You can invest in stocks, mutual funds, IPOs, ETFs, and so much more, all just in one app. You can also get a very comprehensive overview of your portfolio with just a few clicks. That is why Grow has become the most trusted stockbroker in India with over 1 crore active investors on the platform, which has made it the largest stockbroker in India. Check out the link in the description for more details.
No, it was a very difficult time. I mean, in being candid, I have sat in a room without electricity. We make about 10,000 tractors a month now. We came to a situation then when we came down to making only 500 tractors a month. We were completely dried up on our working capital. And it was very, very trying period. And then, to keep the motivation, the alignment, the focus, and not just for your own self, but to keep that focus and motivation for your team. Because we used to go for Diwali functions in our plant, and all the workers who have stayed with generations with this company, there's a lot of bond, love. And, apart from doing what we do in business, we also have a responsibility in terms of society, the suppliers, the dealers. There's a large family. And, that is really an essence that we feel proud about, that in the last 8 decades, it's not just financials and the balance sheet, it's also relationships, the impact we have created with customers. So when we were going through difficult times, my father and I used to look into, each other's eyes and say, we have a responsibility to take care of our family. And that really gave us courage. So I, used to come to work, and all I used to do was to talk to banks because we were not able to pay the money in time, and therefore there was a lot of pressure. And then I started to, meet with a lot of funds who were looking for restructuring capital that they would perhaps give us to bring in the very necessary amount of money that we needed to kickstart the core business. And I'll share something very personal in this interview. Perhaps it may surprise some people, but I don't mind sharing it. So I spent a lot of my time, making presentations to these funds and giving them an essence of what our strengths are, where we went wrong, because it's very important to be honest.
Yeah.
And, if you don't know where you went wrong, you will not know how to correct it. So we knew that our entry into telecom, while it's a sunrise business, I think many players have done very, very well. But for us, it didn't work out for us because we didn't have the necessary capital, and telecom is a very capital intensive business.
Yeah.
So I used to go to these funds and tell them that we will exit, we will need this fund, we need to pay high debt, high interest cost debt, and therefore put the money into working capital. And with that, the volume of tractors will grow, and the profits will climb, and all of the aspects of the restructuring levers. So I used to spend maybe meeting 5 to 6 funds a month, and it was one instance where I had gone to Delhi for a meeting with one of the fund houses, and I started my presentation. And within 5 or 7 minutes, I realized that they were not interested in what I was saying. So I sort of, paused and I said, "Is there something that is distracting you? Is there something you want to talk to me about? So it doesn't seem that you're interested in what I'm presenting."
Yeah.
So then he looked at me and, he said, "Nikhil, you're right. We're not interested in your presentation." So then I said, "Then why have you called me? Because you know the objective of this meeting." And he said, "With all due respect, we understand you are in a financial problem and the company is not in a good situation. And your family has been in this country respectfully for last 7 decades. And the situation that you have got yourself in, it seems impossible that you will get yourself out of it. So we'll give you an offer for you and your father to walk away from this company. So you will have good capital to live a comfortable life and leave the rest of it to us to restructure." I looked at him and I said, "There is no price tag around my neck. Money doesn't motivate me. Legacy does, responsibility does. And we have always had a strong resolve of taking this company from where it is today to where it needs to go. And you have only further strengthened my resolve. And I don't believe this meeting is serving any purpose." And I just respectfully got up from that room and I walked away.
Wow.
I met the same people after 5 years, and our market cap around in that period was about 1,200 crores. And when we did the entire restructuring, and maybe later in the interview, I can talk to you about investors like Mr. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala who came and spotted our story, and that was another experience.
Yeah.
And then when the company market cap climbed to about say 25,000, today it's about 36,000 crores. But when our market cap became 20,000, we were making good EBITDA, debt-free cash. I went to one event and I bumped into the same sets of people. So it was like a full circle.
What was that like?
And he came up to me and he was sort of reluctant and he looked at me and said, "Nikhil, I really want to apologize for the fact that we underestimated you." I said, "Don't talk about me because I'm nobody. It's my team. And the fact is that you underestimated the resolve and the DNA of this company of last 8 decades." And but thank you. So I was with a lot of gratitude that we were able to turn around.
That's such a fantastic turnaround story from
Yeah.
not being able to find early believers to then reaching to thousands of crores in terms of market cap. But since you mentioned the story, I have to dive deep into it. Mr. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. Unfortunately, I've not been able to interview him, but I've interviewed a lot of his peers who have shared very fond memories and stories about him.
Yeah.
But, as an investee company who's on the other side receiving money from him, what was that interaction like?
Meeting with Mr. Jhunjhunwala was an experience. I mean, I'm really, really fortunate that I had a chance of meeting that kind of a mind. So actually, I was in Mumbai with my CFO and my core team, and we had gone for a non-fund roadshow. That time, the restructuring was getting more and more visible. We wanted to get the confidence back in terms of letting the investing community shareholders know about what the plans were. So, we spent the entire day, 2 days in Mumbai making presentations. And I think while we were in Mumbai, the word of mouth started to go around that there is some strength in the story that is being talked about for the turnaround. And
this was still very early days?
Early days. And at the end of the day, when we had finished our meetings with all the investors, we got a call that Mr. Jhunjhunwala wants to meet you. So we were very surprised because he was not in our list because he was very prominent and such a large profile investor, and we felt we are just around the turnaround story. Maybe he would not be keen. So we went to his office. We spent about an hour, just me and my entire team. And he looked at me. He says, "Nikhil, I love your story. I believe in the potential of what you're saying. But I want to ask you a personal question. Why you want to put all your weight behind this company and this story?" And I looked at him. I said, "It's about respectability, and I'm hunger for impact. I want to partner India. I have grown up seeing my two grandfathers, H.P. Nanda and Raj Kapoor. And it's not necessarily important about how much wealth they accumulated, but the love they spread. And that's what I'm hungry for." And he looked at me. He says, "Son, I see that hunger in your eyes. And I believe in your team, and I believe in the story that you have talked to me about. I'm going to back it, and I'm going to start investing in your company."
Oh, wow.
And he came in, and he actually was one of the early spotters. I think if I'm not wrong, he came in when our share price was maybe between 85 to 100 rupees. Today we are about 3,600. And when he came in, a lot of people said, "What are you doing? क्यों invest कर रहे हो इस company में?" And he used to very, bullishly say, "I believe in the brand, I believe in the story," and rest is history. So I really, enjoyed my conversation with him. He was a great support, great motivator, and I'm thankful to him.
And then after that, what happened? Because, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala coming in is pretty much the whole street then follows, right?
So, you just have to do the right things. It's there are no shortcuts. So, we started to put in discipline. We started to focus on return on capital invested. We're looking at EBITDA, investing in technology. And I think the greatest way of getting confidence is actually showing results. And, it's about speak less and deliver more. And we started disclosing numbers on a monthly basis on our sales, which we were not doing earlier. We said we want transparency. In our quarterly calls, we started to engage in a very candid manner. I remember in one year, particular year, there was a question that was asked: how do you predict the monsoons and industry figures for the remaining part of the year? So we were amongst the early believers that this year is going to be a lukewarm year in terms of demand. And we indicated that. So there was a reaction that maybe we are again looking for an excuse for not performing. And after 2 months, when what we said came true, there was respectability, that at least they are being candid. So we spoke very openly, transparently about what were our strengths, what were our weaknesses. I remember our EBITDA was in single digits, about 7 to 8%, and we had to sort of get to the levels to matching it with the peers. And we started a project in the company, and I still remember it was called Shikar. And we, gathered the team and said, this is the possibility of saving. And much to my belief, to my joy, we actually surpassed that target 2 times over. And then the company went towards 15, 16% of EBITDA. Market share was also starting to climb. And that's when the interest started to come in our script in our company.
Was there a personal shift within you, because you came into the business when it was very testing, tough times, right? And then to suddenly see all this reception from the market and some of the biggest investors, and to see the company have a complete turnaround. When was that inflection point for you personally?
Inflection point for me personally, in what perspective?
In just like, feeling like you have arrived as an entrepreneur, as a founder, promoter?
No. Firstly, I never feel I've arrived. Firstly, I don't feel any prominence. As I said, for me, it is, I feel when I come every morning here, this doesn't belong to any individual. This is truly, and I'm not just saying it to be politically correct in your podcast. I really, from my heart, believe that this platform is given for all my colleagues and me to serve India. So, I really believe that this platform is given for all of us to serve this country. And so therefore, I don't think of it in terms of an individual sense of me arriving. Frankly speaking, the last 7, 8 years have been tremendous. We have restructured again. We are planning for the next phase. We have partnered with Kubota Corporation, which is the world's most respected agriculture construction company in the world. They are in the top 150 in Japan and Tokyo Stock Exchange. So, it's about leveraging the potential of what India has to serve. India is only at 35% mechanization versus 95% in United States. So for me to arrive is more about India to arrive. India must stand shoulder to shoulder. So there's another personal story, if I may share.
Sure.
So actually, many years ago, I had gone for a conference in Europe, and it was an international conference, and many industrialists from many countries were invited. So I was the only Indian sitting in the table, and after a few drinks, and I don't drink really, so after a few drinks, these people started to speak a little bit more than usual. Maybe it was alcohol talk or whether it was intentional, I don't know. So these guys, that time India was not the story as it is today. Our Prime Minister has done a wonderful job in bringing India in the limelight. Make in India, for India and for the world. And today I see that people outside India look at India very differently. But I'm talking 20, 30 years ago. So when I was in this conference and in the dining table, so this American looks at me, he says, Nikhil, no disrespect. What is India really known for? You guys are software engineers, but have you really created an impact in terms of brand and technology that the world can be known for? In our country, we have these brands in auto, we have these brands in other segments. And so the Korean guy, he said, we have Samsung, and then some other guy said, we have this. And I came back and I shared this story with my people. I said, I'm a proud Indian. I believe in India. And I felt this conversation was not an insult, but it was a calling. That we have to show the inherent strength of what India stands for and what our company can deliver basis the strength of this country's talent. So today, when you say, have you arrived? I think India will arrive to become the third largest economy. And we want to make Escorts Kubota reflect the India potential now with Kubota to reflect an Indian multinational company, Indian Japanese company, to give that flavor of strength of India.
So interesting to hear. And, this is so powerful in terms of story because to separate the self from the larger objective and the mission and purpose, it's truly noble to see how you think and, how your mind functions. But also take us back to the time where you were exploring this partnership, right? Because you were telling me about how you were reaching out to people and, how you reached out to the president of the company without having an introduction to him. So how was that experience like?
So, when we had restructured the company was making good profits. We were growing in market share. But, I was sort of thinking ahead and saying that this is great, but you can't get complacent. And I think there's a famous saying, which I really, really love. And that reminds me in our good times. And the saying says that some of the worst mistakes you can make in life are in your best of times. So
that's so true.
So when you feel you are indispensable, you have arrived, you're making good profits, the arrogance that I can do what I can. And I think with due respect, some of the entrepreneurs globally, in my opinion, go wrong when that arrogance and over-ambition is beyond the capital and the business ROI.
True.
So when we had done what we had done in terms of getting Escorts, now Escorts Kubota on track, because I had seen the company at its worst situation, I have respect for capital. Today we have surplus cash of maybe close to 9,500 crores. We have no debt. We are generating good positive cash flow every year. But nowhere in my mind I am feeling one can be complacent because you have such a large cash reservoir. You have to earn your bread, your profit every day. So in a way, I wouldn't say I am happy I went through the early difficult experience, but in a way it made a man out of me to understand and respect the frugality and the value of money. So when we were doing well, we were thinking ahead for the next 10 years. How do we bring in global scale, global connectivity? Being in India as a fourth or a fifth manufacturer is not a vision. So we need to really stand in the shoulders of giants to have that kind of peak of what you can deliver. So we did our research, and in that research, Kubota came as a very prominent brand. I don't know whether you know about Kubota's story, but just very briefly for your audience, they've been in the United States for 50 years. They are a compact, a small horsepower manufacturer, small in the definition of 120 horsepower and below. In 50 years, below 120 now, they're number one. In Thailand, they have 80% market share. In Europe, they're growing. In Japan, they have a market share of 52%. It's a frugal, it's a technologically innovative driven company. And we were convinced that Kubota would be the right partner for us, also from the point of view of the products that we were manufacturing and what they were bringing in. So I reached out to the president, we had few meetings, and rest is history.
And at that time, just for the audience to have context, what was the lay of the landscape truly like? Which were some of your competitors? Who were you trying to compete in terms of peers?
So, I don't want to give a name of a competitor. It was more about how can we be better than what we were last year? How can we be more, move away from just manufacturing products, but moving towards giving solutions. Because as I said, India is only at 35% of mechanization, which means India in the last 8 decades has seen tractorization, not mechanization. And Kubota is truly an agriculture company. So I think for our next wave of impact will not only come by producing more tractors. Of course, we have to, and we have a very high aspiration of growing in our market share for our 3 brands. And we are investing heavily in our research and development to bring in exceptional differentiated products with technology. But the other aggregates like harvesters, rice transplanters, implements, precision farming, and now with the digital and AI, Kubota has all this in their shelf. So we are going to actually indigenize it, make it pertinent to the Indian soil, and give that taste of productivity to a farmer, because we are really here to change the livelihood of a farmer. So that I felt Kubota would be a tremendous partner in the journey.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that backstory. But when then you evaluate the opportunity that truly is ahead of India, where you've had a record year in terms of tractor sales, and the rural story seems to be alive and really kicking in terms of getting a lot of capital and a lot of other opportunities ahead of it. But if you think about it, the India story globally right now is at a weak spot where, if you compare to global markets, India hasn't delivered in the last 1 year, 2 years. But everyone, at least all the market veterans I've hosted on the show, everyone seems to believe that India is on a structural growth story. What is that opportunity in terms of an operator? Like, how do you think about that opportunity? What is the rural and the tractor story ahead of India?
So as I said, India, with our population of 1.4 billion people, India is also, as Prime Minister Modi says, make in India. For me, I am very much able to relate to that, because today we are contributing nearly 20% of the total tractors that Kubota sells in Europe. A lot of Indian and Korean manufacturers are growing in the European continent, moving to North America, moving to Africa. So I think India, and we are on the verge of announcing or doing a groundbreaking in Greater Noida. We have acquired 154 acres of land before Jewar Airport. And within the Kubota group, this is going to be one of the largest factories where we will manufacture tractors and agriculture equipment, machines, and construction equipment. So the scale of potential, I think 70 to 80% will come from India, because India is so under-penetrated. And the rest of it, we will invest as and when we need to, will come from the world markets.
So when you think about some of these large capex investments that you're doing, because you are debt free and you have free cash flow available to you to be able to deploy, how do you think about it from a capital allocator's lens?
So I have my own personal opinion. I believe that the break even needs to happen within 4 years. For me, ROI is extremely important. And we need to be free. We have to be free cash by a certain amount of years. So we view it from all aspects. One is from the strategic lens. Second, in terms of the capex, but then we also measure capex in terms of benchmark. There are companies who overinvest, and that's something we need to be extremely careful about.
Yeah.
So the break even and the positive threshold of the cutoff year is extremely important, and we have very good debates within the company.
That's interesting you say that, because, a lot of the times a company has to decide between making long-term decisions and what the street wants to hear, or, what you have to say on earnings calls. How do you approach that, balancing the short term and the long term?
So you see, we have a midterm business plan. We are very clear about our long-term aspirations. Now, I understand the street has expectations on a monthly and a quarterly calls, which is important, but not at the cost of diluting the long-term objectives. For example, maybe in the last 2 years, candidly speaking, we may have under-delivered on our market share. Now we get a lot of questions about, why is your market share not gone up in the last 2 years? Our response is we are doing exactly what we need to do. For example, this year we are launching products between our 3 brands in the different variants. In the history of our company in last 8 decades, we have actually designed a product for the southern market, which is for paddy fields. So we are tailor making products for the kind of soil and the cultivation we see in different states of India, which is giving us the right to participate, the right to win, right to compete. So we are very measured in our strategy of what products will be launched in which brand, in which part of India, which will create the right of participation and growth of market share. So I individually, along with my team, we are on course of the market share journey, the profit share journey. So if it's not being met for the next 3 months, 6 months, that may be an expectation of the street. But most definitely, we are going to achieve the objectives of what we are stating, and I'm confident about that.
And from a strategic lens, because, like I was mentioning earlier, in our family business also, we've had Japanese JV partners, right? But if you think about it, what discipline or what cultural change did it really bring into Escorts as an organization? How did it elevate you? And were there any pros and cons? Were there any cultural differences? Because it takes time for any partnership to build and, get seeded.
I'll start with a small story. When we started our relationship with Kubota 6 years ago, and that time the first batch of expats from Japan arrived to India, and we were very new to any Japanese interaction, at least my team. I had been interacting with them and negotiating with them, but my larger ecosystem at Escorts Kubota that time was not really experienced or didn't have much experience in dealing with the Japanese. So it was like a typical, as when you have an expat, your company is organizing the car to receive those guests and arrange for their visit the next day. So Japan Airlines and ANA normally come around 3:34 in the evening.
Yeah.
And so we had made their plan to visit our plant on the following day, considering that the flight is arriving at 3:34 in the evening. They should go to the hotel because Japan is 2.5 hours ahead in timeline. So
And let me guess, they insisted on doing that the same day they landed?
there you are. So they arrived. The driver said, "I'll take you to the hotel." So the expat said, "No, we want to go to Escorts Kubota factory." So the driver was confused. He says, "No, I've been instructed to take you to the hotel." So they insisted. They came to Faridabad, reached our premises at say around 7 p.m. By then the offices were closed. Luckily, the administrator knew that these guests are coming the next day, so he was in our premises. So he sort of said, "Okay, you've come. So this is the place where you will be sitting for the next 3 months. But I have to apologize. We have not cleaned the room as yet. But I'll show you. It's dark." So he switched on the lights, took them to the room, and the room had all files. Unfortunately, it was not cleaned for their arrival. So the Japanese told the housekeeping guy and the admin guy, "Thank you so much. Just give us 30 minutes and meet us after 45 minutes or 30 or 45 minutes." You would not believe it. They cleaned the room.
No way.
They cleaned the room. In 45 minutes, when the security and the admin guy came back to the room, he saw that the senior people had cleaned the room. Such kind of do-it-yourself ownership sent shockwaves across our culture. It's not about anyone not doing what, cleanliness, for example, is a way of respect in Japan. Getting into Kaizen, it's like everyday improvement, as we talked about. You also have a relationship with Toyota. And when I go to Japan, I'm fascinated to see their discipline, their obsession with quality, with respect, the customer centricity. I mean, they love their customers. And the other thing I've learned from Japan is, which is a great learning for me, that we used to always, or at least I used to always talk about, this is a benchmark of a product that we need to create. So we need to create this product, and the Japanese said, no, we need to first meet the consumers. We need to understand what they are not getting, because designing a product that you feel is superior is not necessarily the true path of differentiation. You need to understand what the customer is not able to do, what he needs to do. So the entire obsession and alignment of communication with customers is a great discipline that Japan has taught us.
So then when it comes to, truly seeing what success looks like out of this partnership, a lot of people, similar to maybe take the example of the Bajaj Group, right? They also had partners and manufacturing JVs from across manufacturers, but then they decided to do an independent partnership, but then an independent entity altogether and invest heavily in R&D. But what is the benefit of relying on a JV partner, especially a Japanese technology partner in an industry like yours?
No, this is a very good question, Shrishti, and let me answer it in that there are some, and there's no right answer here. There are some entrepreneurs and companies who like to work with partners, and there are some who don't, and there is no right or wrong. But we are very proud as a DNA or as a company who have loved working with partners. And that was the origin. I mean, Mr. H.P. Nanda had multiple partnerships. We got into the tractor business from the Massey Ferguson brand. When India was independent in those years, and we only had the northern part of India to distribute tractors. Then we bought Ford Motor Company from Detroit, and we made Ford tractors. And then we had many other German partners, Italian partners, Japanese partners. So to me, this is a very natural phenomena for us. We respect partners. We love working with partners. So for us, it's a value that we believe we can create jointly. And I'm very proud to have Kubota as a partner in Escorts Kubota. And I think this is what will give us, in my opinion, the outlier or the edge of differentiation of the next wave of growth.
So the group has literally survived partition, liberalization, to the current times, and like pandemics and so many things, right? Like war. What does it truly take to be in the 8th decade of business? How does legacy get carried on? Because, as the saying goes, the famous saying that the first generation creates the wealth, the second generation either keeps it or maintains it or grows it, and the third generation destroys it, right?
So, Shrishti, you are third generation.
I know, that's why I asked
and
this question.
When I came, that was one of the slogans or the words that was in my mind, and I was very conscious of it. And this was done, maybe, I think, through some research that they believe they did across the globe.
Yeah, like most family businesses don't get to year 100, or most businesses in general never make it to year 100.
Right.
And by year 100, most businesses decline. And we have barely any examples. Like there are still very handful examples of companies that make it past 100-year mark. And that is how it's seen, that typically by the third generation, the business doesn't survive.
So what I'll say is, and I'll say it in all humbleness and honesty, and it's not a reflection of my individual success, but it's a reflection of my colleagues and the strength of the company's DNA. At least for me, I have been in this company for 30 years. I'm a third generation. What I speak in words can be in words in the podcast, but you can see the run up of our company market cap. I mean, from 1,200 crores, we touched nearly 37,000 crores. So at least one stigma is out that, it's not about destroying, it's about building. And second, one of the most important decisions that I took in my life was to actually bring in Kubota into Escorts Kubota. Because, I could have had an option of running this company independently. But again, going back to the earlier part of the interview, it's not about me. It's about this platform. And in my opinion, promoters who think that the value can only be created by themselves And we need to sort of evolve around all the power and the decision making around just two people's offices. I don't believe is a DNA that can create a company into an institution. My job is to first respect why did the founder create this company. And I said this is a platform given to partner with India. And the fact that I brought Kubota in is a reflection that this company will go beyond me. It's now become an institution. I have not even diluted one share in this company. I am actually doubling down on the future of this company. And I believe in the vision and the prospects of growth of this company. So it was important and most important responsibility from a third generation, apart from just a turnaround, to ensure continuity and to create the institutional nature of what this company needs to have to continue on that path. So, so that's how I feel about a partner.
But help me, let's deep dive into that because,
Yeah.
a lot of promoters, unfortunately, are very egocentric that, they like control, they like having, they see their company with a lot of pride and, a lot of control matters to them, right? But what you're saying is a very detached way of leadership, but also like very mission driven, very, not focused on the self but the greater good. How does one inculcate that?
So I would sort of, Shrishti, say it a little bit differently. It's not so much about detach. I mean, my life is this company. I'm a workaholic. I'm one of those few people who, if go for a long vacation, I'll fall ill because I need to come back to this environment.
Yeah.
I don't come here because I need to come here. I come here because I love it. And I think sometimes when you love something too much, it's like you hold on to something too much. It comes to suffocation. And I think it's important. I love this company. I can never be detached. But for me to do what I did is because I love the company so much that I need to ensure that this company will outlive me. It needs to live for the next 200 years. Kubota is 137-year-old company. We are now on the 82nd year of our presence in India. So I know that after me, this company is never going to stop. And I think that is my way of saying I love this company so much that I don't want to struggle it. And I'm not an egoist. I don't come for power. I don't want the limelight. I actually get true joy when I see some of my colleagues taking more responsibilities. I feel that this company become hopefully one day in large cap. Today we are a mid cap company. So that's my aspiration.
That's wonderful. And, thank you for bringing out the legacy aspect because that shows that, you're not thinking as an owner, but an institution builder
That's right.
rather. And then when I know Navya and, I've had the fortune to interact with her and, your kids that way. How do you think about legacy from the next generation transfer?
Shristi, this is a listed company, and India, I think, is very intelligent in spotting governance, pedigree of promoters, and whatever it takes. It's all reflected in the share price. Now, Navya, yes, I mean, the Nanda family and Kubota are two promoters as per SEBI. The representation from me and after me, my children, sure, they will be representative from the Nanda family side to represent the voice and the shareholder rights with the Kubota Corp. So my daughter or my son both will eventually do that role as they should because it's a legacy that will continue beyond me. It goes to the fourth generation. Now, Navya, is now showing willingness to participate more and more into EKL. But that just because her last name is Nanda does not give her the right to get a position. She has to earn her position, which I think she will do it on her own. She is smart. She is ambitious. She just recently graduated from IIM Ahmedabad.
Yes,
She is making multiple visits with me to Japan. She has a relationship with most of the senior leadership team in Japan. They appreciate her mind. She's also like you. She also worked with Meta. She likes digital coding. And given the sphere we are in India, it is important that we also graduate towards digital marketing, digital way of doing things. And I believe that Navya will partner and participate in that. But for her to do what she will do as a day-to-day operation of EKL is for her to carve her path basis her appreciation and impact. So from that point of view, it really is up to her and my son, and I wish them the best.
But this is where I would love to bring in the personal aspect, because if you think about business family dynamics, every family is very different in terms of how they are how they marry business and family together, right? And they have a different way of thinking about it also. So in your home, when you go back from the factory, are you more just I'm going to be home, I'm a father and husband now, or is it still like a dinner? The dinner table, is it still business being discussed?
Honestly, I can't take business out of me because I love this company so much.
I know you're here at
You
6
know,
a.m., so
you
that's the
know.
biggest proof.
So I will be lying to you if I say I go and I'll be politically saying no. I am an I can never take business out. So I'm a very sensitive, very passionate person. I take my business with me everywhere, and I don't feel bad about it because I feel proud of what I am representing and what I'm part of. But I love my family. Or my family is my foundation. My children, I'm extremely close to. We talk about everything, and I had them when I was very young. So today they are like companions. I can speak about matters of business, and I hear about their ambitions. I hear about their opinions. Hear about what's happening in the world. So obviously, when you go back, you are carrying the business in your mind, but it's not necessary that I will talk about it all the time because that is not a way to build a bond with your children. So of course, I like to hear their opinion, and we have a normal conversation because at some point I also have to let go and hear their perspective of things that they want to talk about.
So was it a conscious choice that you wanted them to come into the family business or start participating, or were they more inclined towards doing it?
So Shrishti, my son has gone towards entertainment business. He's become an actor. So there's like a joke in the family, my son says I became an actor, Navya is going towards tractor. So, I mean, what role, as I said, Navya will play in EKL is really for my Japanese partner and for my company in EKL to see, and my board, more importantly, to see what value she can add. But she's representing the family office. She's going to be representing, along with my son, on the shareholding part of the Nanda family. So yeah, I mean, Navya is interested in the business. She's also investing into private equity. So like you are managing your family office, so even Navya is interested in that. So I want my children to make their own ambitions. I don't necessarily feel I need to tell them. My mother always told me, Nikhil, let your children do what they love. So I believe in that.
And here I would just like to bring out that dynamic of being Raj Kapoor's grandson.
Oh,
Because, and this is where we can possibly wrap up the episode also. How has that influenced you? Because, all said and done, despite all the business success, you also have a very public facing identity, right? Like because of Bollywood and the connections of the family in that sense. How has that impacted you as a business leader, or does it impact you at all?
I grew up in a very normal home. I was very close to my maternal side of my family, and I am. I lost both my parents. The Kapoor family has been someone who I've related because my mother used to take me and my sister to Mumbai for our summer vacation when we were children. I saw Raj Kapoor as a grandfather. I never realized his fame, what he was outside the house. We used to have normal times having times of simple joys. He used to love dosa and idli. He used to take us to some. I still remember the restaurant name in Mumbai called Gita Bhavan and Ravi Cafe. It was like a street restaurant. It was, but unbelievable food. I realized about Raj Kapoor when I went to college. When I was in UPenn, there was a very bad storm. As you know, in the East Coast, you get terrible storms.
Yeah.
And I got stuck in my college, and there was like 2-3 feet of snow, and I was like waiting for a taxi, and I was not able to get one. And after 20-30 minutes, I found one taxi, and then I, told him where he needed to take me. So when I sat in the taxi, I heard Raj Kapoor songs. And I said, what's going on here? And it was a Russian driver.
Wow.
So I kept quiet, and I normally, I'm very shy and humble, but then something got over me and I said, he's my grandfather. So he thought I was joking. He says, why do I believe you? Told me. He says, no, he's my grandfather. So luckily I had a picture in my wallet of my entire family. And I showed him, and Raj Kapoor was standing with me, my sister, my mother. And he stopped the car. He says, no, And that's when I realized the love and the impact he had created in the world. He didn't charge me for the cab ride. So, to wrap up the Raj Kapoor story, how I believe he has impacted me in what I do today, I'll share one personal story, an interaction with him. When I was 12 years old, I I had a lovely interaction and an evening with Mr. Raj Kapoor. I don't know what got into me. I looked at I looked at him and I asked him. I said, Nanaji, what is your expectation of me as a grandson? I don't know why I asked. And what he said to me then has remained till date. He says, Nikhil, when you retire and if you're able to get out of a three-wheeler, not a fancy car, and people love you and salute you for the love and impact you have created around you, then to me, my son, that is the wealth and reputation that you would have created for yourself for what I would like you to earn. So I have always led towards that, I'm not a materialistic person. People call me I'm very humble, which is fine, I live with it. But humbleness is not a sign of weakness. I know what I can add value in, but I want to impact others. I want to spread uh, uh, wealth and joy to everyone I am surrounded by in the company or to my consumers.
That's so deep and profound.
Yeah, it's something has remained.
But like as a young boy, what did that make you feel? Did you truly understand how profound that was?
I did not. At that time, I did not. I was only 12 years old. All I was thinking about was where I was going to get my next ice cream and where am I going to do what. And but today when I reflect, because those conversations play out, similarly with Mr. H.P. Nanda, I used to go on the weekends to be with him. And one weekend, and I've said this story many times in Escorts Kubota, and he was reading newspapers, continuously for like 30 minutes. And in the room, it was just him and me. And I said, I'm sitting with you, Dadaji. आप मुझसे बात भी नहीं कर रहे हो. You're not even talking to me. And then he looked at me, and what he said again was like an impact. He says, son, people read newspapers for news. I read newspapers to see what I can do for my country. So, both Raj Kapoor and H.P. Nanda's wisdom, advice to me is about what I have led in executing what I believe I have to make this company into an institution. I'm a proud Indian. We want to partner India. We want to bring the Japan and India relationship and become another example like Maruti Suzuki. And that's my mission. And in that journey, if I can earn some respect, love, and I can spread love and respect, then I would feel I would have arrived.
That's truly heavyweight legacy, and thank you for sharing such candid and personal stories.
Thank
But
you.
if you think about it, speaking of legacy again, your father passed away unfortunately in 2018. That was just the beginning of the turnaround, or do you think he was able to see what the impact that you were creating?
I think he saw it. I had some, he led the early part of the restructuring. He was a very strong leader. I partnered with him. So I would like to give him the credit of initiating, starting the turnaround, especially when we started to exit the businesses. And then when I became more active towards making the company improve on its profitability and impact, he saw that. He saw the early stage of my strong willingness to bring in Kubota as a partner. And by the time he passed away, the partnership hadn't happened to the level we see it today, but he had blessed it. And so did my mother.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I think, this is all I had for today. We'll do a quick rapid fire to wrap up the segment.
Wow.
One word for rural India. One word for rural India in the year ahead.
Progressive.
Diesel or electric tractors in 10 years.
Hybrid.
The book that has stayed with you the longest.
Good to great.
The person you call when a decision is too hard.
My mother, she's passed away, but I always talk to her in my heart and my mind.
That's wonderful. A lesson from your father that you understood late.
Don't wait for action that need to be taken today.
One decision you would make again.
Surround yourself with the best of people.
And one word for the legacy you want to leave.
Respect, love, impact.
I'm with Mr. Nikhil Nanda and Kako-san from Escorts Kubota, and I'm on their beautiful campus doing a walking tour with them, looking at the beautiful tractors and the greenery which is there in campus. So would love to hear from both of you, how has your relationship evolved over the last few years from that request for 15 minutes now to daily working in terms of alignment? How do you see this going forward?
Made me easy to go ahead. So now I am not 100%, but 90%. What you he's thinking about and his vision and his aspiration. And now I try to understand and try to get together, accelerate our growth or our improvement.
Well, I think it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, we are very aligned. He's a role model for bringing in the strengths of Japan. I've become a role model to ensure that the balance from India is also there. So we understand where we want to take the company and we actually navigate. So we are in the cockpit and I'm really enjoying working with him. We are totally aligned. We have one vision. We have great communication. And also, I think more importantly, in our board, we have representatives of Kubota. We also go to Japan every once in 2 months. The total alignment of Kubota Corporation with Indian directors, with me and Kato-san, it's absolutely in one direction, which adds to the strength. It's not about India, Japan, India towards the future. So I think it's wonderful, Shrishti.
True. And I can see that in terms of how the alignment is there in this partnership. Wish you many more milestones and continued success. Thank you so much for doing
Thank
this.
you, Shrishti. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nikhil. This
Thank
was
you.
so wonderful. Honestly, it gives me so much warmth just to hear about how you think as a leader and how embedded this culture is in, just respect and progression and a contribution towards India. It's truly heartwarming to see.
I want to compliment you for the way you conducted the interview. It was really a joy. As I said, I'm a very shy person, but I think you took out a lot more than I thought I would speak today. But
I'm so glad.
my congratulations to you for your successful podcast and thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you enjoy watching our content, please remember to subscribe to our channel. It really helps us in bringing you better and better content each time. Thank you for watching.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.